नमस्कार सांग माने आपण मानकु मो चैनल ओडिया कला को स्वागत। आशा करूछि आपण माने समस्ते भलरे थिबे। क्षमा करिवे मु नियमित वीडियो न आनी पारु। आजिर वीडियो होछि जने प्रतिभावान मनीषक शिक्षा संबंधी भाषण बा आलोचना। तांकर नाम होछि डॉक्टर श्रीधर पाणिकर सोमनाथ, जने एरोस्पेस इंजीनियर। से आम भारतर इसरो बा भारतीय महाकाश गवेषणा संस्थार अध्यक्ष भावे कार्यनिर्वाह करिसेंती। तांको नेतृत्व रे इसरो तृतीय भारतीय चंद्र अनुसंधान मिशन बा अभियान chandrayaan 3 सफल भावे कार्यानुष्ठान करिथिला। आसंतु सुनिबा तांकर अनुभूति एवं शिक्षा नीति विषय रे किछि कथा। तांको मैरीलैंड रो जॉन हॉपकिंस यूनिवर्सिटी द्वारा आमंत्रण करा जायथिला। एहा आमर सौभाग्य तांको शिक्षणीय भाषण सुनिबा आउ तांको देखा करिबा।
Neuroscience postdoctoral career guidance series seminar. The Neuroscience postdoctoral seminar series is a platform where postdocs from the extended family of neuroscience at Hopkins, which by the way is over 500 faculty, just so you know, across all of Johns Hopkins, come together to learn about careers in academia from experienced faculty at Hopkins, learn about how to give job talks, expand their networks for the future. The series has been fortunate to have been supported for the past 2 years by the Solomon Snyder Neuroscience Department, the Psychological and Brain Sciences PBS Department, and also the Kali NDI, Neuroscience and Discovery Institute at Hopkins. For this event, we are proud to have the Gupta Koti India Institute as our sponsor. So the GKII was formerly known as the Johns Hopkins India Institute. It was founded by our former provost, Dr. Kumar, who is now president of Tufts. We miss him dearly, but one of the things he did while he was here, besides being an amazing chief of academics, PhD, looking at control over under communication constraints, so thinking of teleoperations or trying to communicate and control the robot on Mars and back. You have huge communication constraints, so how do you actually stabilize and actually get performance under delays and inaccurate information. But I minored in neuroscience. This was at MIT. I minored in neuroscience, and I decided to leverage that training and focus my entire career in neuroscience, in particular medicine. So what I do today in my laboratory here is build simple models of the brain in health and disease to come up with better biomarkers to help clinicians diagnose, to come up with better treatments, open or closed loop therapies, both drugs as well as stimulation, and to treat disorders like epilepsy, chronic pain, and Parkinson's have been some of my focus areas.
Regarding some of the work that we are doing back in India, especially in the education sector, now I've been part of an education ecosystem, Chancellor of a university, something which I never thought that I would become. I was all the time in space doing behind the rockets, space missions and all that thing. I thought that today I will talk a little bit about our educational background things and the changes that are being brought in the educational infrastructure, the narratives and everything, and also the possible new universities that are being built. But if you are keen to know about a little bit about space, I have no hesitation to speak about it. But all depends on the time, and possibly you can ask questions at that time. I can bring you the slides if you need. But then I would like to start from speaking about Chanakya University. It's very important for us because there are a lot of universities in India now in the private sector which is coming up. That this is a different university. At Bangalore, definitely Bangalore has its own advantages, and it is also created out of collective philanthropy, which is something very unique. And the Chancellor, I am appointed as the Chancellor, which has no link to the university. So it's a private that's never ever heard of in that respect. So I'm there only for a few months. So along with me, here is Professor Dongre, he is the Vice Chancellor ever since the creation of this university is part of this. So I will give him 5 minutes to speak about the university and then I move into my topic. Over to you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll very quickly, this is some kind of a case study for the changing higher education system in India. That I think gives you an idea to where India is heading in terms of that changes. Those of you who are from India might know that 15 years ago, if you were to look at 95% of our higher education institutions were in the state sector. You are hardly, when I say this, not the private colleges, but in terms of research and the entire domain of higher education focused on that. Maybe we're only speaking about IITs or Indian Institute of Science and those kind of institutions, and any private university was very, very rare to be seen. The last 15 years have changed this situation, and today in India we have more than 350 private universities. That amounts to about 30% of the landscape of all universities. Now, one thing is, many of them of course are the degree awarding institutions, not so much focused on research, but Chanakya has taken a very different path. The whole idea of this university was conceived through a set of goals that was set out, and it happened during the COVID period, and a few industry people came together and they said we need to create a kind of university which is very, very different.
I'm going fast. We
Okay.
building the nuclear capability and another one landing on the moon with the Chandrayaan 3. And both days are celebrated now as National Technology Day and National Space Day. But we had a heritage in India. We always talk about this, that science, technology and engineering were created by thousands of years of effort. But then I'm not going to each of those capabilities. But what is most important for us to know that there are still traditional IITs and other education institutions. In terms of research and outcome, of course we are not really the highest, but the publications are growing. The quality of publications are also growing significantly now. And in terms of engineering publications also, we are now the 3rd largest, but far away from the 1 and 2 of course. But then this is something that need to be, we got to catch up. But there are many other measures that we can talk about. But then it's not the case with India alone. I think all of you know the technology is moving at a tremendous pace everywhere. And many activities are happening in India as well. And this is something which I would like to share with you. In domains like AI, in the domains of quantum, in terms of chip manufacturing and many other activities. So I'm very happy that many of you got graduated in some domains and moved to robotics and automation, came to neurosciences. I think there are people like that. I think for me also a person from mechanical engineering background, very passionate about other domains of maths, like what we talked about control theory. And I'm also a control scientist, but then I never got an opportunity to work in control, but I was also there doing rocket design. Coming to education landscape of India, I think it is something which I would like to talk to you and then spend a few minutes on looking at the scale. One of the important aspects is that we have now the IIT system and also the new norm, national education policy, the right to education, the reforms that are happening in primary education sector, connecting primary education with the higher education. All is mandated by a new policy that came out in 2020, that's called National Education Policy. And this is really a reformative policy. And one of the goals of this university, Chanakya University, is established is to demonstrate that national education policy is implementable in letter and spirit. What exactly is it? One is the multidisciplinarity of studies. Now you are not compartmentalized into something. So when we created the verticals of the university, looked at the entire NDP recommendations. People can move across discipline. This is allowed. We created schools, but then there are teams under which all people from the schools can work together. Then we also wanted to connect industries. I think this is one area which is lacking. I think connection between academic institutions and industry for translated research, products making, then feeding back into R&D activities. It's not existing substantially in India. This is another weakness which we would like to correct. I think there are many areas that are currently very important for us in educational infrastructure. Now look at the National Research Foundation. I am not going through the text, all of them, so that for us to save some time. I think one of the important aspects is in terms of policy, in terms of the reform. I think the national education policy has done tremendously well. I know many of you know India very well. I think one of the important issue there is language. We speak so many languages. It's not just common language. English is not the only mode of education, especially coming to higher education. So one of the challenges now to create higher education framework in multiple languages. I think this is also mandated now. Why don't we learn engineering in regional languages, but learn English and then create academic content, research content, and also books and all others in all languages. I think this is again very important because we started working in domains of AI, especially the NLPs in multiple languages. So as to create the framework for translation and then data searching and many other activities also happening as very, very important aspect of this. So it's one element of that capability. Similarly, the evaluation of universities on their performance is also changing. And there are many other parameters. For example, the connect between academic institutions to research laboratories. For example, in India there are many research laboratories. For example, space, atomic energy, Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, Department of Agriculture Research, and many, many others. The work which is done there and the connect between academic institutions and the industry continue to remain a very weak link. And we created a new entity called National Research Foundation, NRF. This is another important activity, and there is a new CEO appointed. Primarily look at how this connect can be established and new laboratory can come up. And for that, a fund of 1.5 lakh crore has been allocated with significant funding from government and much of the funding coming from private. And for each of those research cases, these funds will be managed by a team of people. Not really you working the fund and then look at only publications. No, really you will be looking for creation of infrastructure, research outcome, and then industry connect, all of that through this process. So the funding typically for some single problem base can be as high as 5 crores. So this is the type of possibility that is now created out of ANRF, which is something really phenomenal. Look at IIT system. Now in the last few years, number of IITs have increased. And the second and third tier IIT, we call initially there were 6 IITs, I think all of you must be knowing about IIT system. And then came the second tier IITs and third tier IITs, and all of them are really mentored very well. Some of the new IITs are doing extremely well. For example, the one at Gandhinagar, the one at Hyderabad, they have shown that there is even Guwahati, which is at the northeastern part of the country, are doing excellent outcome in terms of research and industry connect. They are really being considered as top end IITs now today in India. Of course, some of them are struggling to build up their infrastructure, the academic content, etc. But then it's a great initiative. And not only that now we have even off-campus capabilities in IITs setting up in the Southeast Asian countries, going to Africa and all that, and creating off-campus bases, and then creating a global brand for IIT, something which is very important. Now, it's also, all of you are aware, IITs are now much sought after world over. I think that we will talk about it. Another important aspect is entrepreneurship in people coming out of industry. India is now slowly becoming a startup nation. I think this is another message which I would like to tell you at this moment. We have 1.5 lakh startups in the last 5-6 years created. And in space sector, where I represent, at least 350 startups are there in space. Some of them doing rocket design and building, many of them doing spacecraft building and application delivery. And this was never heard of in the past. Maybe 4 or 5 years back, there were none, maybe one, thinking of building a space startup. And now we encourage building space startups, and many other young people which are coming out of the universities are encouraged to look at possibilities of starting a startup. And there is enough funding possible from VCs and others who are desirous of investing in space. Even before the launch of the rocket, some of the companies are really have excellent valuation, which is a great possibility for people to get into this domain. Now, many of the elements of the national education policy, I would like to spend a little bit on education, because we are now looking at expansion of access and scale, which is very, very evident in the scale, and similarly shift in institutional capacity. I think both of these are possible for you to read and find out, so I won't spend time on it. Let me talk a little bit about private universities. I think this is again another great initiative by Government of India in allowing private universities to happen, and many of the states adopted private university ecosystem, and now huge private universities have come up in the country now. Almost 350 of them are private universities. Some of them are really big, but then of course I must tell you the research work which is done in this private university continue to remain low because many of them are teaching universities. Undergrad focus is very high. Post-graduation is also now not getting that type of traction in many of the universities. Doctoral studies have become slowly picking up, and in case of infrastructure building, many of the universities have invested heavily in many of the laboratories and facilities in those universities. And what you really lack is a commitment of the faculty to come into this private university and connect with the research laboratory. So this is something which we are looking at in the future, and that is precisely the reason why we have Chanakya University, and that we would like to look at this possibility. So what we really need is human capital in that area who will focus on research and developing this transitioning from a teaching university to a research funded by private entities. Another important aspect is in terms of teaching. I think you will also be seeing this digital transformation impacting education. I think I'm hearing many places whenever we go, how is the AI integrated in your course? This becomes a question that many people ask. And why should we come to a class to listen to a professor teaching the conventional way of lecturing or even for undergrads? So this is again taken up very seriously, and we think that it is the right time in India to look at digital capability to be part of the educational infrastructure. Much of the learning that we need to do in the classes are no longer required. I think we can do that mostly through the digital capability, which is very important for the country. I think possibly you may also be aware there is a huge digital content now being created in India in multiple languages, which is delivered through various platforms, which is sponsored by Government of India. And those digital courses have become integrated with the university system, and those credits that will come from the digital courses that you take offline can be added to the post-credit content, which is a very important change. So that allows people to take credits of courses which are not linked to the primary course. So we are allowed to take minors and online courses, and they become part of the curriculum. So this is one important change. Similarly, there are many reforms in the education systems. For example, in terms of multidisciplinarity, which I already mentioned, flexibility. People would like to stop the course halfway through. So, for example, you are at the undergrad for 4-year program. You would like to stop it at 3 years and get out with a diploma. Come back and join for the degree and take the complete degree at later point in time. So this is a possibility now. So once you are into the system, you are not trapped. You can always get out and take a sabbatical and move away and then take the course further. So some of these are very essential element of the new education policy. Of course, multidisciplinarity is a topic which I already mentioned. Affiliation is again another important change. For example, Chanakya University with only one campus now. So we allow this also to happen. Earlier there was a problem in creating single campus institutions with multidisciplinarity. Now it is possible to create a very flourishing university and then moving to other places at later point in time. So the colleges which get affiliated also can have a different mode at this point in time. Research is very important in universities. I think this we have different ways of funding in currently in the university system, and this must be important for people who are desirous of moving to India. Now the funding for faculty comes not just from the university alone, but for a funding ecosystem that exists under different heads of funding, like the Department of Science or Technology provides a certain level of fund, ANR provides a certain scaled up funding. And there are research laboratories like ISRO, DRDO and others, and many other sponsoring agencies providing problem-specific funds. And one more interesting thing for faculty today is to allow them to create Section 8 companies under Government of India rules, which is non-profit making companies, and they can run those businesses right while they are in the university. So this is something which is really transformed even IIT system. Many of the professors are now owners of companies who actually makes good profit. After they have reached the scale, they can actually create companies outside the Section 8 company system and then incubate them outside and then become owners of those companies along with the students who came out of the universities. So this created a new wave of company creation within the faculty of the universities, which is something which is exciting. And this is happening in private university system as well. So it's a new freedom that made professors and earlier who were only teachers, they now have ability to build institutions, they have the ability to build businesses, which is very, very good, very good. And this is being promoted by government in many ways. For example, the Atal Innovation Mission, and there are many schemes under electronics development, which is mainly, which is a ministry in charge of developing electronics. Department of Biotechnology, which is Department of Government of India has called Bio E3 policy, which allows them to create new businesses and companies, incubate them under the bioscience domain. Similarly, CSIR, which has again different funding schemes, this is Council for Scientific Industrial Research, which is spread out labs across the country, almost 53 of them, doing such funding in all the areas of basic research. Of course, in terms of academic and industrial engagements, I mentioned about it. Allowing sponsorship of students in academic and research institutions has become mandated. This is another important change. Students from universities should mandatorily go for sponsor. For example, the last semester they should do a joint project or they should go internship there, and companies and businesses and institutions are mandated to a certain percentage of their staff strength to be part of the internship process. So they have to put it up in the websites, universities have to link and then send the students to this places. So this is again another way, a method by which they can be skilled better and possibly get better jobs in the future. So this is another interesting change. Of course, I talked about academic flexibility in terms of the movement of years, 4 years, 3 years, or closing it in between and coming back and joining. In the governance and quality, of course, this has also become much more simpler for new universities, create new curricula, introduce new topics, in linking with so many accreditation and regulation bodies are now, the plan is to integrate and make it simpler. This has not yet been announced, but the government is moving towards much more simplification administration. Of course, the primary goal of all of this is to create new knowledge creation system through the National Research Foundation. I'm not going to explain all of this because I mentioned this in summary. Again, foreign universities coming to India. This is again a new trend. The government has even allowed foreign universities to come and establish their campuses in India. In Bangalore itself, there are 3 or 4 universities have already established their campuses, and possibly more are going to come. And international collaborations is also increasing. Even Chanakya has already signed MOUs with 2 of the US university and some of the European universities. We are looking forward to look at academic collaboration with other universities as well. So this is also encouraged by the government. Teacher education is taking a very important step now in all of the educational policy. The training part of teachers to handle this curricular change and focus on teacher education is a very important aspect. And this is some topic to discuss. I talked about digital implementation of various infrastructure. Government focus is to create significant digital inventory in the days to come, which includes MOOC classes which are being sponsored outside, and their content creation is now mandated with teachers and professors out of the universities, which will become part of the learning system. I also want to tell you that it's not just the education sector is what is changing, it's also the industry ecosystem is also changing. For example, take the chip, digital part of it and manufacturing of this in India. I think traditionally we have been lagging behind in doing it, but the initiative of the government is now to invest more into manufacturing of electronic devices in India. This is almost 1.75 lakh crores have been allocated to fund private companies to build digital capability in India, and this has created new research capability in academic institutions. And at least 4 or 5 companies are now already started building their infrastructure in India, including packaging and high-end digital equipment, hardware development and design. Similarly, the digital revolution that's happening in India in many areas, I think is really phenomenal. For example, digital transactions, UPI. I think all of you know about the UPI. Those who come to India, that you will be able to do it. Spending without using credit cards, using your mobiles, much more easier. I think all of us now do. Even for small ticket transactions, you can use UPI. Not even with no internet connection not required. Without that, you can do that. I think it's really a transformative thing. The banking system has fully been digitized, tracking the transactions and linking all of your digital processes to the government information, which is very significant. And there is a change of looking at digital delivery of administration to people. I think when I was speaking to one of the chief ministers of the state, he was telling, I will have to provide all services through WhatsApp to my people. Now, to that extent, the people are now, because everybody uses WhatsApp, so why don't we get certificates, your services, your land records, your tax payment, your insurance payments, and all your regular payments, all happen digitally in India. I think it's really wonderful to see that transition happening, but then more can be done. For example, there are possibilities to look at healthcare, tracking data, conducting environmental related information. For example, one example I tell you, digital records keeping of the land records. It's a huge effort that has now started in India. Entire land is now surveyed through drones and with high resolution, and it is being captured. Your entire land records are now being put into digital cards. People, you can hold it, and your records are your cards, and you can go to the government office and then read it, and then there is no need to keep all those paper records which get destroyed. So this is the type of change which is happening by the initiative of the government. Similarly, in biotechnology domain, there are a lot of work happening, especially to bring research capability through significant funding. Of course, in other domains, genomics and medical technology, I was talking to people who are working in the neurological domain. At least there are 3 laboratories on brain research in India at this moment, funded by people who wanted to work in advanced research in neurosciences. There is an IIT Chanakya which is working on brain modeling, and in Neuroscience there is a brain research laboratory that is a government institution. We also have significant growth in technologies in detection in agriculture, which is very interesting. Drones have become one of the important tools in agriculture, and IoT-based research is happening in India, specifically looking at watering, which is again a problem because you don't have huge amount of fresh water, so you need to look at how to minimize water. Similarly, precision, looking at micro minerals or rather the trace elements in this, and then use IoT devices to track it and then feed them into the system so that your nutrients loss is now minimized. So all this research is happening. IIT at Palakkad is focusing on this research to look at agriculture as a very key area. Of course, in the entertainment sector, you can see a lot of things happening in India. For example, digital movie making has become really the thing. I think most of the movies possibly you would have seen, India produces the best of the movies now at substantially lower cost than anywhere else in the world. But this is happening not just movie alone. We are having AR, VR capability and simulation capability, and even looking at advanced entertainment sectors. I think this is growing. Recently I did a class on AI for cartooning and animation, which is very transformative. Many people are actually working in this domain, and most of the movie making in animation side is actually happening in India. I think all of you are aware that there are very small facilities and labs, which comes back to build the big movies that you see here. So there is huge amount of career opportunity for people that wants to go into technology domains in India, education and industry, which is really fantastic. The publication side also we are showing significant increase. So possibly these are all data that you can always pick up from various sources, so I don't want to spend it. But then still the quality and quantity of increase of publication is something which we need to work on. Also, I would like to advise you to look at various institutions in India, possibly if you are familiar with them, not familiar with them. For example, DST, which allows people to move from one country to India to work on specific problem and come back. It allows them to create processes by which you can go for 3 months of sabbatical, work in the university and come back and then contribute, collaborate with the faculties in India and then bring teacher education capability in India. This is a great opportunity. Similarly, funding side is actually very good in India at this moment, especially research funding. It is already growing. I talked about ANR, which gives you a specific strength in looking at specific topics which gives you significantly high funding. Not the earlier used to be 1 crore, 2 crore, few lakhs, rupees. I think that's not the case at this moment. For topics which are very relevant and industry requirement and business requirement, I think the funding is significantly higher. I will also advise you to look at CSIR website and then read about what they are doing, various research, especially material science, biological sciences, using rural technology to build the resilient societies, green initiatives, especially green hydrogen and carbon utilization, etc. They have huge amount of work in that. Okay, on different side and strategic side, of course, there could be limitations, but then it's a core area where we look at some of the indigenization research for creating capabilities. ISRO is, of course, a potential collaborator for many things. I think we have done this with NASA and many others in the US. The last 12 missions that we did, NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar satellite, which was launched recently, is a classic case of how do we really collaborate in building a complex machine without any money exchange. It's also a competency exchange and skills. And at the end, you get data, which is good for USA and India. It's really a great thing to happen. Also, the mission to ISS, Axiom, where Shubhanshu Shukla went as the first astronaut who went to ISS after so many years. I think it's a great journey that we are starting, and we are talking on many other topics with the NASA side from US. Also, we have very good research happening in material science, atomic energy, other related particle sciences and physics. The Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and Atomic Energy is doing pioneer research in astronomy and astrophysics. And also we have research work happening on topics which includes compact nuclear reactors. It's very important for the future. I think all of us is needed to build such capability to create our future. Agricultural research is again another area. We found a lot of people in the US coming from this background, contributing to the research ecosystem. So let me stop at this moment because we were speaking about education, research, technology, all of that coming up in India, really growing substantially, giving opportunity for young people to look at possibilities of a career building in research, academic research and industry connect, and also build up a career which is not going to be purely based on academic work, but they will be able to transition from industry to academia and vice versa whenever there is a right time and aptitude exists. So this is something which I would like to share with you. So thank you, and I have some slides to talk about space if you are having time. Otherwise we will go to questions. But then this journey didn't start for Chandrayaan. It started in 2008 when Chandrayaan 1 was conceived to look at exploration as a theme for us in India. Building space system for going to moon has never been easy in India because way back in 2008 the funds were not coming for. We had only a rocket which can go lift out only a ton to space. Still we conceived a mission to go to the moon and then put a satellite in orbit on the moon. That's something which is phenomenal, which includes very frugal engineering approaches with very interesting mission and aptitude, and also a collaboration between various nations. We had 2 payloads from US and 1 few from Europe and others hosted on this 10 payloads, and only Indian payloads were only 3 out of that. So we were able to integrate all these payloads and then find out what water on the moon. The first time the understanding that the moon is not bone dry, it still has a possibility to extract water, though it's not bad water there really. It's still water buried in the minerals and we need to extract it out. And we are hoping that we will be able to drill deeper, find water there in the form of ice. But this knowledge came, and you see this is sort of a map of hydroxyl molecule presence using our own mineralogy mapper. But then when we went to Chandrayaan 2, the mission further got complex. We were looking at how to land on the moon, and by the time we had a new rocket, and of course this landing did not materialize. We had a problem towards the end, and that problem is precisely I'll come to that a little later. But this is beautiful images of moon we captured, and today we have the best of the high resolution images of the moon coming from Chandrayaan 2, and it helped us to build the Chandrayaan 3 and land safely, because we have now a better picture of the moon, where to land and where the borders and craters are. The resolution of the images which we had during the Chandrayaan 2 time were not of that quality. But all of you know that the landing did not go well. Towards the end that we had a problem. The whole craft tumbled and then had a crash landing. But this crash landing was very interesting. I think if you dissect what went wrong and then how you learn from a mistake and then come back for a new mission is something which I would like to share with you. I think all of you will be seeing failures and problems in anything that you do. And how do you really find out what went wrong, and then how do you really take action to correct them, and how in an organization level you handle this issue. There are some lessons which is something important. But of this whole landing process went very well captured on the moon orbit. We came down from 100 kilometers down to almost 350 meters above the surface. But then something went wrong with the software. The software glitch happened. The glitch happened due to many reasons. There is an error sitting in the software, and that error will get triggered only if certain conditions come. Otherwise, it won't even show up. What is the condition when some rays on the satellite go beyond the threshold? Then this error will come, because errors will their mode function where you look at when something goes negative, then you convert to positive. And this is not necessary when everything is nominal. If it exceeds some limit, only we need to do that. In the computation, something can turn out to be negative at some point. So this got triggered because of high rate which was presented in the satellite, and the high rate came because we were using multiple engines to land. Where in typical moon missions we use only one engine. You would have seen Apollo landing, there is only one engine there. But we never had a very powerful engine, so we had to engineer the whole thing with an available engine. So we had twin engines, 4 engines really, and it was switched on, switched off to manage the landing process. And we also had throttling to control the thrust, and this throttling control it creates a problem of slew rate. I think a lot of people will understand what slew rate is. You command something to get a frequency response, it doesn't follow that frequency. When it is too fast, it will become a little sluggish. You command it faster, it becomes sluggish. So this we realized much later, and we had to correct this control interaction to control the thrust variation, and then create the throttling. The high rate that created the software error and caused this hard landing. So we understood all this not by looking at the debris, or we cannot impact debris to understand what went wrong. The only way is to simulate the mathematics and then find out what are the reasons why this failure can occur. But then we did a lot of changes. The story of all this would have seen the video of Prime Minister Gaganyaan and consoling the chairman at that point. But then going to Chandrayaan 3 was really a very interesting thing. We had to make a lot of changes, improve the algorithm, improve the guidance algorithm, landing margins, propellants reserves, the possibility of having high slew rate capability, and new suite of instruments which will give you better position and location accuracy. Because we have better images, the image correlation between the real image capture and the one which is stored there was much more better than the last mission. So we went to moon, again the same track. And even before that, I can tell you that we did a lot of tests. That test lasted 2 years. Flying them and testing them, the instrument suits and integrated flights in helicopters, simulating landing areas on Earth, and then flying over it to see the sensors behave properly. Going and hanging the whole craft in a simulated gravity and then test flying to see that the control system interaction with sensors and the propulsion works very well. I think a lot of such tests actually gave rise to the final craft. And we also had a cute rover called Gaganyaan, and this is only 26 kilograms with its 6-wheel robot, autonomous with its 2 binocular vision and location identification capability. Did all the experiments moving around the moon with the 2 of the spectroscopic instruments. And the launching happened, and we traveled the same way as we did at the last mission to the moon. But there were a lot of corrections in the software and things which I won't spend time today to go through unless you are keen. I will be happy to share with you those information available on email. If you are specifically interested to what really, how do we really correct software from somebody who is keen to understand which dynamics and how to correct software, possibly I can tell you about this. But then while we understood what can go wrong, then more things can go wrong in the future. So what we do is that we look at all possibilities of errors and problems that are likely to structures, propulsion, thermal. We have even changed solar panels. For example, like you just look at a logic. When it lands, the solar panel should face sun, and sun is there only. Sun won't come this side, like unlike on moon. If you look at sun, the sun rises and sets there in one place. It doesn't go traverse across, especially the south pole. So you need to necessarily land with that face looking at the sun. If it happens to be 30 degree tilted, the mission is up. So we have to understand what all can go wrong and how we will mitigate this problem. So build those capabilities in this. How do we build sensors of multiple types of sensors? Radar-based sensors, laser-based sensors, inertial sensors, camera-based sensors, and fuse all of them to to generate information so as to make decisions. So all of this happened in the last 2 years. We had a successful landing. I think all of you seen that. But the celebration went afterwards very well, and I'm very happy that my statement that India is on the moon really echoed among the people. And we had some of the highest ever viewership in YouTube and in many other places, which actually created so much enthusiasm and inspiration for young people in India to look at why ISRO should be second in the space business. If you can do it in this, we can do it in many other areas. So it's something, an inspirational story we always share with young people to come to STEM domain. I think this is something which is needed in our country, because still a lot of people are not having that idea of learning mathematics, science, and also opportunity. It's what we need to create. And again, another story is about women participation in science and technology. Again, in ISRO we have 25% of women in science and engineering domain, almost 25%. I think this is very, very high compared to many other areas of science and engineering domains in other parts of the world. I'm sure about it. And this is again being celebrated as sari-clad women launching rockets in movies. I think you have seen it. But the interesting part is after this we have a reform happening in space, which is very important for us because earlier we have been doing all of this under ISRO. Now it's not done under ISRO. This is something which is important for it. We are now doing it with government and private becoming partners in this. So the whole space is now open to private to do anything that they want. Rockets, satellites, and applications can be done in the private. And we have a target of expanding the space economy substantially, allowing private players to come. And government is also investing more. Last year, when I was secretary, I got approval for significant part of projects, including mission of man to moon, building new reusable rockets, new space station, all got approved last year, showing a great space mission which lasts 25 years from now. So when India is celebrating 100 years, 50 minutes, we believe that there must be a great journey in space. And this is not for show. Basically, we would like to create capacity in industries and academia, research and businesses. So that fuel into this. It's not going to, government is not going to give money for all of this. The money has to be generated by the business that will happen in space sector. That is slowly happening. We can see that companies are building outside spacecraft. There are companies who are actually building spacecrafts in India, using technologies that they developed or acquired, and launching and providing services globally now. Some of them are doing services in the US. There has been contracts to give some of them to do strategic roles, some of them doing debris related information gathering in space, and all of this are happening globally. And these business houses have their branches and units in the US as well as in Europe. I think this is something really wonderful to happen now. So let me conclude and say thank you so much of the space side part of the story. Okay, thank you.
এই ভিডিওটি কিপରି ଲାଗିଲା କମେଣ୍ଟ କରି ନିଶ୍ଚୟ ଜଣାଇବେ। ଲାଇକ୍ ସେୟାର ଏବଂ ସବସ୍କ୍ରାଇବ୍ କରିବାକୁ ଭୁଲିବେ ନାହିଁ। ରହୁଛି ନମସ୍କାର। ବନ୍ଦେ ଉତ୍କଳ ଜନନୀ।